Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mina and today we are going to be doing another book haul video. I haven't done one of these since around the summertime, so I think I'm kind of doing them, at least it seems that I'm kind of doing them for each season, because I did do one in spring, one in the summer, and now we are in the fall, or about to be in the fall, so I have acquired a good amount of books that I want to show to you guys. Some of them I've already talked about on my channel, some of them I've posted about on Instagram, but there are a few that I've got that are a little bit lesser known titles that I wanted to share with you guys and kind of just show you all of the books that I have picked up during this beginning of spooky season time. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump right in. I'm going to start with the ones that I've already talked about and then get into some of the more recent pickups that I just got. I have about 14 books total to show you guys, and 5 of them I've already read and the rest are to be read books. So let's get started. So the first 3 that I have for you guys are the 3 that I have just recently read in my last reading vlog, which was Dark Harvest by Norman Partridge. This was an absolutely amazing 5-star Halloween read for me. Completely recommend this book, especially for this time of year if you're looking for something with perfect spooky and autumn vibes. This book definitely delivers all of that. Go ahead and check out my last vlog if you didn't already, but this one was such a surprisingly, I don't want to say perfect, but amazing read for me. So I do have that. Also from that same vlog, I read Halloween Party by R.L. Stine. This was a fun little average Halloween read. Definitely more of a light type of mystery horror, light YA mystery. It was a fun experience, but nothing like crazy life-changing. If you can find this in your local thrift store or a cheap copy online, I would still recommend picking it up and reading it during this time of year because it was definitely a fun one for me. And the last book that I also read in the last vlog was Halloween Season by Lucy A. Snyder, and this is a collection of short stories that are supposed to be marketed as Halloween themed. However, if you watched my vlog, you'll know that I didn't particularly enjoy this one. I felt like there wasn't enough Halloween and autumnal content in here, and I was really expecting something much different with the vibe of this book. There were a couple of Christmas stories in here which I was really confused about, and a lot of the stories just revolved around the same weird type of horror, but not really scary horror. So if you're somebody who likes weird and obscure type of storylines, you may enjoy this one. It just wasn't for me, and even though I absolutely love the cover of this book and wish that it was much different, I'm still happy that I did get a chance to read it, and it was a letdown, but it was still a fun experience. Okay, so the next 3 books that I have are books that I do plan to read in my next Halloween themed reading vlog. And the first one that I have there is another R.L. Stine book, and this is Halloween Night. I'm obsessed with the cover of this book. I know that there's a part 2 to this as well. I'm having the most difficult time trying to track down that part 2. I can't find it anywhere, not even on Amazon or eBay or Etsy. It's just completely sold out and out of print everywhere. So I'm hoping one day I can come across the second book in a thrift store or something like that. This is a used edition that I did purchase off of Amazon because that was the only place that I could find this copy. But this is supposed to be about a Halloween party, and it says, I'm just going to read the blurb for you guys. Brenda hates her cousin Haley. And Brenda isn't the only one, because Haley keeps stealing other people's boyfriends. So Brenda and her friends decide to plan the perfect murder, something to go along with Brenda's perfect Halloween party. Not that they're really going to kill anybody, it's just a joke, right? So it sounds like a prank gone wrong type of situation. It actually sounds quite similar to the plot of Halloween Party here, maybe just some subtle differences. I think that this might be younger YA and this could be a little bit older YA. Correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if there's any distinctions here, but I really love the cover of this and I'm hoping it's a little bit darker, and I'm hoping that the spooky content starts from the beginning of this book, because it did take a while for the spooky and creepy moments to begin in Halloween Party. So I'm hoping that this one is a little bit creepier, a little bit more intense, I guess you could say, and I'm hoping there's a lot of like autumn and fall vibes in it as well. So stay tuned for an upcoming reading vlog. I will be reading this book. I will also be reading my first Ray Bradbury book, which is The Halloween Tree. I don't know too much about this story. I think it's basically just about a couple of children, like boys, who are traveling between either like different worlds or universes, and they're kind of like discovering the different origins of Halloween in different cultures. I will read the blurb to you guys. It says, on Halloween night, 8 trick-or-treaters gathered at the haunted house by the edge of the town, ready for adventure. But when something whisks their friend Pip away, only one man can help the boys find him. Join the sinister carapace clavicle mound shroud as he takes them on an unforgettable journey through space and time, deep into the mysteries of the spookiest of all nights. Can the boys save Pip before it's too late? Okay. So I thought that it was going to be, I mean, it sounds similar to what I thought, but it seems like there's more of a story tie-in this rather than just like kind of bouncing around between different origins of Halloween in different cultures. But it does definitely have to do with like time travel or like space travel. So I'm thinking there's like a sci-fi sort of fantasy kind of element to the horror, the spookiness in here. Hoping I like it. I've never read from Bradbury, and I know that he's like a classic author, and I know that he is like the epitome of like fall, autumn writing, so I'm really excited to check this out. I do want to read some of his other classic autumnal type of stories, so if I do enjoy this one, I will probably pick up a couple of more. And the other book that I plan to read in that same next Halloween themed reading vlog part 2 series video, oh my god, that was like literally a mouthful, is Halloween Fiend. I don't know anything about this book, but I will read the blurb to you guys. I just saw it advertised as like a Halloween set book, and I've seen some people post about it like last year on Halloween on Bookstagram. It is by C.V. Hunt, and it says, strange isn't the small, quaint town it appears to be. It's haunted every night by a creature the townsfolk refer to as Halloween. Once the sun sets each day, Halloween emerges to collect its treats, a small live offering from each household. The residents comply because no one wants to be the target of Halloween's tricks. But the nightmare of residing in Strange, I think it's Strang, because there's no E there, is nothing compared to the yearly ritual Halloween demands of the citizens on All Hallows Eve. Okay, this sounds really spooky and really creepy. It's reminding me a lot of Dark Harvest with that like monstrous entity and like sacrificial ritual on Halloween night. So I'm hoping that this one is similar to that. I'm hoping it gives me like really creepy and chilling vibes. I don't know if this is considered young adult or I don't know. I feel like Halloween and holiday books sometimes like blur the lines between what is considered young adult and adult, because like everybody reads them, whether you're a young adult or an adult reader. So I don't know, we'll check it out. It sounds good, it sounds creepy. Love the cover of this one. The next book that I picked up for this season is Agatha Christie's Halloween Party. Again, another famous classic author that I have never read before. Yes, I've never read an Agatha Christie book, and I'm kind of like ashamed to say that out loud, especially because I love thrillers and mysteries. So I'm really excited for this to be my first one to pick up. A lot of people have recommended like the classics like And Then There Were None, Murder on the Orient Express, but when I saw that she had a Halloween set mystery, I was like, okay, maybe I'll just pick this one up first, read it this season, and then if I really do like Christie's writing, I can go ahead and read some of her other titles as well. So this one is also about a Halloween party and somebody witnesses a murder. It says when no one believes her, she storms off home, but within hours, her body is found still in the house, drowned in an apple bobbing tub, okay? That night, Hercule Poirot, so like the famous detective in a lot of Agatha Christie's books, is called in to find whether the evil presence is called in to find that evil presence. But first he must establish whether he is looking for a murderer or a double murderer. Agatha Christie needed to, okay. So it sounds really good, definitely detective mystery vibes. And I heard a lot of people who've read this said that this is one of her more like comical, humorous novels. So I'm excited to see like how the dark humor kind of fits in with the mystery, and we just love a good Halloween set book. So I'm excited for this. Okay, moving on now to some of the other books that I got. I did end up going to a used bookstore that I found near where I live, and I picked up a few horror books that they had in their horror section. One of them I've read already, and then the other three I have not read yet, but all of these are like used, old, thrifted editions of books, and I absolutely love them. Like, can we just talk about like how cool they all look together? I just think it's so beautiful, and vintage horror covers are just like, it's my aesthetic. So the first one that I got is the one that I read, and it was the Ashton Horror. This is considered a young adult horror book, and I actually really enjoy this one. It's super corny and cheesy, and again, it's just like a fun time type of book. It reminded me a lot of like R.L. Stine and like just, you know, the fun cheesy horror B-movie like type of reads that I like. So this is about a boy who moves to a new town, and I really like that this new town is in Vermont, and it takes place like at the beginning of the school year, so you definitely get those like early autumn back to school vibes that I really enjoy reading about. So if you're looking for something with that, definitely recommend this one. And he joins this group of boys who like to play these fantasy like Dungeon and Dragon type of games. However, one of the people in that group takes these fantasy games a little bit too seriously, and our main character starts to suspect that there's something sinister going on with these fantasy games, and there may be a sacrifice ritual involved and a demon involved, and it just gets really intense and really crazy. What I loved about this book was that it just was very fast paced for me, and even though there was a little bit of action, which I don't really like reading, I felt like I breezed through the action sequences in this book. The ending didn't feel too long, and it just was like a fun little read that I enjoyed. If you can get your hands on a copy of this book, I would recommend it, and I think it would be perfect for the Halloween season. Another book that I picked up at the thrift store is called Soul Catchers by Jan Lara, and this, I believe it's about a group of children who either get kidnapped or they go missing on this like small island, this small town on an island, and then people start to believe that, again, it's tied to some like unholy ritual, and that these children are being used as sacrifices, and that their souls are being drained so that this family, this evil family, can become immortal. So kind of giving me like hocus pocus vibes with the like sucking the souls out of the children. I don't think it's going to be like Halloween or autumn set, because it does take place on an island. So I might save this one for like a different time of year, just because I'm really looking for like specifically autumnal and Halloween set books during this time. So maybe I'll save it, but it does sound kind of creepy, so I might pick it up. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. It does sound interesting, and like, how cool is that cover? I also picked up Jaws 2, not by Peter Benchley. This is actually written by Hank Searles. And what's interesting is that I actually did not know that there was a second Jaws novel. I know that there are Jaws sequel films like Jaws 2 and Jaws 3, but I didn't know that there was a second book in here. I don't know if this one has the same characters. I don't think that it does. I'm not going to like really read the blurb. I kind of just want to like go into this not really knowing too much, and I think I might save this for next summer, which I know is a long way away, but I just feel like beach sharks, that's like a summer vibe, and I'm like so out of the summer zone right now. So I picked this up, but it will be read a little bit later on, not right now. And the last book that I thrifted is called The Mirror, and this was like solely a cover buy because this is just such a cool looking cover. And it's basically about this woman who just recently gets married, and I think that she either like goes back in time or like transports herself into this like mirror world where she basically lives out the life of her grandmother or her great-grandmother, something like that, through this like mirror alternate reality, and she's trying to find her way back to her regular reality. So it sounds really interesting. I love that it has to do with mirrors because I get very creeped out by anything involving mirrors and like reflections and just like seeing yourself or like another version of yourself. That stuff really creeps me out. So I think that this would be a really good Halloween type of read. And look how freaking yellow the pages of this book are. It's so old. Love it. Okay, we are down to the last 3 books that I have acquired. The next one is another book that I have read. I literally just finished this book yesterday, and that is The Book of Accidents by Chuck Wendig. I picked this book up because I've heard so many people say that this is one of their all-time favorite horror novels and that it's super original, super unique, complex, and just like something different in the horror genre. And I do have to say that I appreciate the originality in this book because it definitely was unlike anything that I've read before. It kind of is a mix of horror and like fantastical or like surreal type of horror, which to me, when reading this, I kind of realized that that's not a subgenre of horror that I particularly like. When I was reading this, I was actually reminded a lot of the new horror movie called Malignant. I don't know if anybody has seen that movie yet, but I recently saw it, and just like the over-the-top absurdity of like what was happening in that movie reminded me a lot of the over-the-top absurdity of the events that were happening in this book. It does deal with like alternate realities and dimensions. I'm not going to give too much away. I don't think I'm going to say anything about the plot, to be honest, because number one, it's just too complex for me to explain in a couple of sentences, and number two, I don't want to give anything away with this book. You're kind of just better going into this not really knowing anything at all. I just knew going in that it was a horror novel. They move to a new house and some creepy things start happening. All you need to know is that, plus alternate realities and like possible doppelgangers-esque kind of like that's a theme in here as well. Like I said, I appreciated how different this novel was, but I didn't love it. It was more of like an average read to me. It was like super long, over 500 pages, and I kind of felt like it could have been scaled down a little bit and still held a lot of what the story is providing. And I also felt like I said, I'm not a huge surreal fantasy magic person, and some of those elements were used within the plot of this book. So those things I didn't really care for, but I thought it was different, and I think that people should still read it, especially during this time of year. It's a really good spooky read, but just go into it kind of knowing how long it is and what type of horror that this book is going to be. Oh, it is also super, super gory. So if you are somebody who cannot deal with a lot of like body horror and gore, this may not be the book for you because it gets very, very detailed when it comes to the gore and the body horror. Okay, and then the last 2 books that I have are 2 books that I've just recently picked up. The first one is called Dark Things That I Adore, and this was kind of like a blind buy based on the cover and description. I don't know if you guys can see this, but this has like one of the perfect autumnal fall vibes in a cover that I've ever seen. It's literally just like a tree with like autumn colored leaves on it, and it does take place mostly during like October and autumn. So this is a thriller novel, and it follows this art professor who gets roped into a weekend getaway with one of his graduate students. And it turns out that when he gets there, the graduate student has a different agenda, and some of the dark secrets from the art professor's past come back to haunt him during this weekend, and it kind of becomes like a revenge type of novel. I've just started reading this. I'm about 50 pages in. I do think that the language of this is very beautiful, but it's also very dense and very heavily involving art, because it is a graduate student of art and an art professor as our 2 main characters. So go into that knowing that this is kind of like an academic artsy type of novel. It does take place in 2 timelines, which I do love. One timeline is in the 80s in this art camp, which you guys know I love camp set things, and then the other timeline is present day in the fall, during this weekend getaway with the graduate student and her art professor. So it does have like some dark themes in there. One thing that I really liked when I first opened this book is that the author of this book gives you some content warnings, so I am also going to let you guys know in case you're interested in picking it up. So she mentions that this book deals with abuse and mental illness and suicide. So if you or someone you know is struggling with mental illness, she gives some resources for people to check out if you need the help. And I thought that that was just really thoughtful, because sometimes you go into a book not really knowing what to expect, especially with thrillers and horrors, because a lot of times those are the content and themes that you expect from darker novels, but you know, it kind of takes you by surprise at times, and it can really affect different people. So I just want to throw it out there that the author put that disclaimer at the beginning of the book, so it might be something to keep in mind. And the last book that I picked up, I am super excited for, and that is White Smoke by Tiffany D. Jackson. I've never read a Tiffany D. Jackson book before, and I think this might be her first horror novel, which is exciting, because if I love this one and she comes out with more horror in the future, I will definitely be picking up more. This is a kind of a haunted house story, and it's pitched as Get Out meets The Haunting of Hill House, which are 2 of my most favorite horror TV shows and movie that I absolutely love. So I honestly don't want to know more than that. Just the fact that those 2 are kind of like melded together into this is enough to get me to pick it up. The cover is absolutely beautiful. I love like the smokiness and like the colors of it. And I'm just really excited. I'm hoping that this scares the crap out of me, because I am looking for a good haunted ghost story, and Get Out vibes and social commentary is one of my favorite things when I'm reading horror, so really excited for this one. All right, you guys, that is it for my spooky season book haul. I may be picking up a few more books this season, just because like I want some more horror, I want some more spooky content. So if I do, I'll definitely show you guys on my Instagram, so make sure you're following my Instagram. I will link my Instagram below, and I'll also just be vlogging and showing you guys during my reading vlogs this season, so stay tuned for those. I have a bunch of like spooky and horror book recommendation ideas that I want to film for the next couple of weeks, so also stay tuned for that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments down below what are some books you were planning to read during this spooky season, and if you saw anything in my spooky haul that you're interested in reading, also let me know down below. I will see you guys very soon in my next video, and I hope that everybody has a wonderful day today. Bye guys!